Gadhar Pandit, Srivas Pandit, and Haridas Thakur are the ocean of mercy. O Sarup Damodar, personal secretary of Lord Chaitanya, O six Goswamis, O Shri Rupa, O Shri Sanatan, Shri Raghunath Bhatta, Shri Gopal Bhatta, Shri Jiva Goswami, and Shri Raghunath Das Goswami. O Loknath Goswami, my beloved spiritual master, Narottam Das also prays for your mercy. O Srinivasacharya, successor to the six Goswamis, please be merciful to me. Narottam Das always desires the company of Ramachandra Kaviraj. So this is a beautiful song by Narottam Das Thakur, and he's remembering all the associates of Lord Chaitanya and begging for their mercy. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Kara More Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Kara More Toma bina ke dayalu jagat sansare patita pavana hetu tavaya avatara patita pavana hetu Tavayavatara Mosamapatita Prabhu Napaibe Ara Haha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Haha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Kripa Balakana Koro Ami Baro Dukhi Daya Koro Sitapati Advaita Gosha Daya Karo Sitapati Advaita Gosha Tava Kripa Bole Pai Chaitanya Nita Tava Kripa Bale Pai Chaitanya Nita Haha Swarup Sanatana Rupa Raghunātha Haha Swarup Sanatana Rupa Raghunātha Bhatta Juga Shri Jivaha Prabhu Lokam Nam Bhatta Juga Shri Jivaha Prabhu Lokam Nam Daya Kara Shri Acharya Prabhu Srinivasa Daya Karo Shri Acharya Prabhu Srinivasa Ramachandra Sangha Mage Narottama Das Ramachandra Sangha Mage Narottama Das Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Kara More Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Kara More Tuma bina ke dayalo jagat sansare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shishi Gornitai ki jai.
Thank you, Gopal Hari Prabhu. Dear devotees, it's my immense pleasure and it's a great honor to ISKCON Boston to have one of the learned scholarly devotee amongst us, who's our speaker today. As far as I know, he's one of the sincere, humble, and very exalted devotee. His Grace Gopal Hari Prabhu is a second generation ISKCON devotee and a disciple of His Holiness Gopal Krishna Gosvāmī. His parents, Anantrupa Prabhu and Arudha Mataji, homeschooled him and his elder brother, Radhika Raman Prabhu. He holds a DPhil in Religious Studies and MST, the Masters in Science and Religion, from Oxford University. His book, Maya in Bhagavad Purana, Human Suffering and Divine Play, has been published by Oxford University Press. Gopal Hari Prabhu is Associate Professor of Religion at the University of Evansville, Indiana, where he teaches courses in world religion, science and religion, and specialized courses on sacred texts such as the Mahāprabhu. He also serves as the editor for the Journal of Hindu-Christian Studies, JHS. Gopal Hari Prabhu serves as the temple president of ISKCON of Indianapolis, where devotees recently purchased a church and transformed it into a beautiful temple. This fall, he will be moving to Chicago. That is a good fortune of all Chicago devotees, where he has received the inaugural Joe Dunham Distinguished Professorship in Ethics at Aurora University. Dear devotees, let us welcome by loudly chanting Hari Bol to His Grace Gopal Hari Prabhu to our ISKCON Boston congregation. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. So I pass it on to His Grace Gopal Hari Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, and with Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you very much, Vanamali Prabhu, for inviting me to give this talk. And just a small, quick thing before I forget. I'm no longer the president of ISKCON Indianapolis. As you mentioned, I'm moving to Chicago. Now the president is Pandit Srivas Prabhu. So he's running ISKCON of Indianapolis. And also we have Mathura Priya Prabhu. He's also from ISKCON of Indianapolis, one of the board members. And so, yes, I'm looking forward to moving to Chicago, Prabhu, and having the association of the devotees there. And today it's very nice to be in the association of the devotees in Boston. I had the opportunity to visit Boston once before and also meet you there, Prabhu. It was a very wonderful trip. And this was before COVID was here and we were all meeting in person. I particularly remember how tasty the prasadam was there at ISKCON Boston. So thank you. It's very nice to now, be in touch with the same devotees again. So I will share my slides. Today, in preparation of Gaur Purnima, we are speaking about the pastimes of Lord Caitanya with Raghunātha Das Goswami. So one way to appreciate the glories of Lord Caitanya is appreciating how he dealt with his dear devotees, and particularly the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, of whom one of them is Raghunātha Das Goswami. And actually, one quick thing, as a speaker, it helps me if people can turn on their video. So if you can, I know many people cannot, they might be, busy with something or driving or whatever, but if you can turn on your video, please do. It's very nice to see people's faces and and then it's a more complete satsang. So today we'll be discussing the glories of Raghunātha Das Goswami and Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's interactions, his relationship with Raghunātha Das Goswami, and particularly what we can learn from his beautiful example, from his beautiful life. Some very great lessons, some very wonderful lessons are exhibited just by studying the life of Raghunātha Das Goswami, who was one of the intimate associates of the Lord. In the spiritual world, Raghunātha Das Goswami is Rati Manjari, and so he is a Manjari, a eternal associate, eternal servant of Srimati Radharani. And in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, he is also very close to Lord Chaitanya, who is Krishna in the mood of Srimati Radharani, or Radha and Krishna combined. And so therefore, the Manjaris are very, nothing is hidden from them. In the same way, all of Lord Chaitanya's very confidential pastimes, all of his glories and greatness, nothing was hidden from Raghunātha Das Goswami. So he's one of the principal devotees of Lord Chaitanya. So his glories and his pastimes are described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya Leela chapter 6. And there's there's about 300 texts in this chapter. So it's a very, very expansive, very beautiful chapter about Raghunātha Das Goswami. And 300 verses. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami particularly wrote this and wrote about Raghunātha Das Goswami in great detail because Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami himself learned many of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, most of his pastimes, in Jagannath Puri from Raghunātha Das Goswami. Because for 16 years, Raghunātha Das Goswami stayed with Lord Chaitanya in the vicinity of Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri and witnessed all of his very intimate and final pastimes. So in between, I will be reading from this chapter. And this is more just like a story. It's not meant to overburden us. It's just the story, and hearing it directly from the mouth of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is very, very special. So in the beginning, when the story begins of Raghunātha Das Goswami, Raghunātha Das Goswami is a householder, and he is the son of Govardhan Das, who is a multi-millionaire. And so Raghunātha Das Goswami, as a child, as a young man, he had the opportunity to meet Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu at Shantipur. When Raghunātha Das, during his family life, went to meet Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu at Shantipur, the Lord gave him worthy instructions by his causeless mercy. Instead of becoming a so-called renunciate, Raghunātha Das followed the instructions of the Lord, returned home, and played exactly like a pounds and shilling man. Raghunātha Das was inwardly completely renounced, even in family life, but he did not express his renunciation externally. Instead, he acted just like an ordinary businessman. Seeing this, his father and mother were satisfied. So here, Raghunātha Das Goswami meets Lord Chaitanya at Shantipur. He wants to join the Lord, but the Lord tells him that if you join me right now, your renunciation will be artificial. You're not ready for this. Go back home and play the part of a pounds and shillings man, meaning of a wealthy man doing your business. But inwardly, Raghunātha Das Goswami was completely renounced, although externally, he played his part. Prabhupada explains that all of us, and I think many of us on this call may be householders, that all of us should have the same mood. We should try to exemplify the same mood of Raghunātha Das Goswami. We need to do our duties, we need to do our business and take care of our family, and even with feeling, we have to do it with feeling. But inwardly, or in terms of our primary focus, we should be renounced, while externally we're doing what we need to do. There's a very nice point that Srila Prabhupada makes in the Bhagavad Gita. He says that how renunciation is not the means of purification, renunciation is the result of purification. certain things are the means of purification. I mean, we have to renounce eating meat. We have to renounce illicit sex and gambling and intoxication. But renouncing your family or renouncing all material pleasures, this is the result of purification. If we give these things up too prematurely, then we might come crawling back. And this happens also. Prabhupada says that how sometimes people renounce their families and they take sannyas, but then they go back home because they're still attached. That attachment has not been purified completely into attachment for Krishna. And so therefore they go back. So Lord Chaitanya gave this instruction to Raghunātha Das Goswami, and this was the same instruction, very interesting, that he gave to Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami when they wanted to renounce everything and join the Lord. So of course, eventually Raghunātha Das Goswami does join Lord Chaitanya. But initially, this is the instruction he gives to Raghunātha Das Goswami and also to Rupa and Sanatan. And particularly, this is the verse that he sends a letter. He sends a letter to Rupa and Sanatan Goswami when they were serving the Muslim Nawab. They were the ministers. Then Lord Chaitanya tells them that don't worry, don't come right now. What should be your mood? Your mood should be of a woman who has a paramour. Paravyasan nini nari vyagrapi griha karmasu tadeva svadayatyantar navasangara sayanam. If a woman is attached to a man other than her husband, she will appear very busy in carrying out her household affairs. But within her heart, she is always relishing feelings of association with her paramour. So a woman who's attached to a paramour, she will do her family duties even more nicely so that no one discovers it, that she has a paramour. She'll do it even more nicely than if she doesn't have a paramour. But her heart is with her paramour. Now in the material world, this is abominable, right? This is horrible. But in terms of the spiritual context, our paramour is Krishna. So the devotee is so expert that the devotee does everything materially nicely, such that people think that he's even better than a normal materialist in terms of managing family and business and all these things. But within their heart, the devotee is always thinking about Krishna and thinking, how can I engage everything that I have in Krishna's service? Because this is my true love. He is my true love. Krishna is my true love. So we are like the bride, Krishna is like the bridegroom. We are like the paramour, Krishna is the object of our love. And this is the teaching of Lord Chaitanya. And Krishna teaches the world through his devotees. Just like Prabhupada says that the mother-in-law teaches the daughter-in-law by teaching her daughter, because the daughter is closer to her. In the same way, Krishna teaches his devotees. Krishna teaches the world by teaching his devotees. So Rupa Sanatan Goswami and Raghunātha Das Goswami, they were clearly ready to renounce the world right from the beginning. But he gives them these instructions just to teach us that this is how we come to the point of renunciation. This is how we become a Goswami one day. Not by artificially giving up the world, but by serving the Lord, but keeping in mind that our ultimate goal, our ultimate object of affection is the Supreme Lord Krishna. So Raghunātha Das Goswami, he appeared in a small village in Sri Krishnapur in West Bengal. He belonged to a fabulously rich family of landlords. So, I mean, this family was, by modern standards, a multi-millionaire or even a billionaire. The Emperor of Bengal leased an entire town, Saptagram, to Raghunātha Das's father, and his father and uncle, they collected 2 million coins. I mean, through their business, they collected 2 million coins in terms of their yearly salary. Of those 2 million coins, 1.2 million was given as tax to the government. And so their annual salary was 800,000 coins. So you might think, well, that's not too much. But In those times, 800,000 coins was equivalent to like $80 million today. Why? Because one coin could purchase 600 kgs of rice. So imagine, I mean, there's no shortage. One coin could purchase 600 kgs of rice. His opulence, Raghunath Das Goswami's opulence, was like that of Indra. And he had a beautiful wife who was equal in beauty to Indra's wife, Sachi. So Raghunath Das Goswami, when he wanted to renounce the world and go to Lord Chaitanya, he was not renouncing a life of poverty or a very austere life. He was renouncing the life that everyone dreams about. He was renouncing the life of a wealthy millionaire, and he was their only son. He would have inherited all of this. Yet he was so focused on the mercy of the Lord and so focused on Lord Chaitanya's mercy and on joining Lord Chaitanya that he wanted to give it all up. But following Lord Chaitanya's instructions, during that 1 year, Raghunath Das Goswami was very expert in his dealings. In fact, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes how one time the Muslim tax collector became envious of his father and uncle, and he came to put them in prison. But they weren't at home, so instead they imprisoned Raghunath Das Goswami. And so Raghunath Das Goswami spoke with him so expertly, with such skill, that the Muslim tax collector, rather than hurting them or putting them in prison, he started to get tears in his eyes. And he said, "Yes, indeed, you are like my son, and we'll work something out." And so when Hiranya, his uncle, came back, then they worked out a deal and everything was settled. So Prabhupada says that the devotee is expert, Daksha, one of the 26 qualities of a devotee. And Raghunath Das Goswami was expert. He was so expert in speaking to this tax collector that he evaded a great calamity for his whole family. So naturally, his father was deeply attached to Raghunath Das Goswami. And so he tried in any way that he could to keep him home. Raghunath Das Goswami was always trying to run away from home, but his father would always drag him back. To restrict his movement, he always had 10 men accompany Raghunath Das Goswami wherever he went. So this was a daily affair. Raghunath Das Goswami would run away from home and his father would bring him back. And so finally his father said, "Okay, there's 10 men who will continuously be with him, day in and day out, night and day. And so he won't even have a chance to run away." He was continuously guarded by these 10 men. And so Raghunath Das Goswami was always praying for an opportunity of how would he meet the Lord? How would he reach the Lord? And as I mentioned, the Antya Leela describes, "Eta mate bare bare palaya dhari yane, sabe tanre matta kahe tanre pita sane." This became almost a daily affair. Raghunath would run away from home, and his father would again bring him back. Then Raghunath Das's mother spoke to his father as follows. So Raghunath Das's attraction to the Lord was like the attraction of the gopis for Lord Krishna when Krishna would play his flute. As we know, when Krishna would play his flute, all the relatives of the gopis would stop them. They would lock them in the houses. They would put, almost tie them up, put them behind bars, somehow to stop them from going to Krishna. Yet in spite of so much resistance, they were still always trying to go to Krishna. In the same way, Raghunath Das Goswami was so eager to attain the association of Lord Chaitanya that he was always trying to run away home with the same intensity that the gopis would run to Krishna. And this is why Srila Prabhupada said that if we actually want to understand the mood of the gopis towards Krishna, we have to understand and appreciate and learn Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. Because the gopis were girls and Krishna is a beautiful boy, one can misunderstand that as a mundane attraction. But in the case of Raghunath Das Goswami and Lord Chaitanya and his associates, they are exhibiting that how this is the mood of devotion, intense devotion to the Lord. That Queen Kunti also prays to the Lord, Gange Vogam Udanyati, that let my mind rush to the ocean, rush to you like the river rushes to the ocean. Let my mind be drawn to you in the same way that the rivers flow to the ocean. So that is the mood and intensity of a devotee. And that is what Lord Chaitanya's associates are showing. Just like if any of you have gone to the source of the Ganges, Gangotri, or high up somewhere where the river is coming out of the mountain, out of a glacier, then you'll see how strongly the river rushes down. It's like, it's unstoppable. No one bathes in that river because if you try to bathe, you'll get swept away. It's so forceful, nothing can stop it. And if we want to reach the Lord, then you could say anything less than complete determination, weak determination will not suffice. It has to be dridhavrata, complete determination. Otherwise, we cannot attain the Lord. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur, in his Vrindavan Dham Mahimamrita, he has this beautiful verse where he says that he who thinks that I will go to Vrindavan Dham tomorrow, not today, tomorrow, that I will go to Vrindavan Dham next week, not today, but next week. Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur says such a person will never attain the mercy of Vrindavan Dham. Because as soon as you think, next week, then Maya is so smart, next week they'll put something in there and then it'll be the next week. And then there'll be something else and then it'll be next week. And this way you'll never reach Vrindavan Dham. He says, if you want to go to Vrindavan Dham, then you have to go right now. There's no tomorrow, because that is the weakness in our determination. And see, it is a lack of determination due to which we are not taking complete shelter of the Lord. Vrindavan Dham means taking complete shelter of the Lord. Because if someone told us today that if you go to Boston and you go to the Boston temple and there Vanamali Prabhu is giving $1 million to anyone who comes, then will you wait until tomorrow? Will you say, oh, no, I'll go tomorrow, I won't go today. I'll go tomorrow. No, because you understand the value of it, you'll go immediately. In the same way, if we actually understand the value of how wonderful Krishna is, if we actually understood it, we could not wait until tomorrow. The only reason we wait until tomorrow is because we fully don't realize the value of who Krishna is. And so Raghunātha Das Goswami, he understood the value of Lord Chaitanya's association. And therefore, he could not wait a moment. And again, we cannot imitate his example, but we can learn from his example about the determination of a devotee. So when Raghunātha Das Goswami would run from home, then his mother, finally exasperated, she spoke to the father and she says, Putra batula haila iha rakha bandiya tanra pita kahe tare nirvinna haiya. She says, our son has become mad. She said, just keep him by binding him with ropes. His father, being very unhappy, replied to her as follows. Indra sama aishvarya striyapsara sama esava bandita nari lekhayan ramana. Our son, Raghunātha Das, our son, has opulences like Indra, the king of heaven. And his wife is as beautiful as an angel. Yet all this could not tie down his mind. So his father responds in this way. You're saying a small rope, but even this, the wealth of Indra and the beautiful wife could not tie him down. Gadira bandhana tanre rakhiba ke mata janmadatta pita nare prarabdha khandaita. How then could we keep this boy home by binding him with ropes? It is not possible even for one's father to nullify the reactions of one's past activities. So he's saying, oh lady, even all this wealth and his wife could not bind him with ropes. So what will this thin rope could not bind him to the home? So what will this thin rope do to bind him? It is impossible to bind him. And then he makes a very interesting point in this verse. He says that parents cannot change the child's past karmic reactions. If they are very strong in a certain direction, it cannot be changed. Buddha's father also tried to change Buddha and make him into a pounds and shillings man, but rather he became a great renunciate. And this happens in both directions. Sometimes you have a very exalted father and mother, very great devotees, and their son is a demon or is very uninterested in spiritual life, like the father of King Virna. And on the other side, you have sometimes where the parents are materialists, but their child is somehow a great devotee of the Lord. And no matter what they do, however materialistic they are, the child will be a devotee of the Lord, like Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad Maharaj. So his father is saying that he's also very realized. And it's very important to note that his father and his uncle, at that time, they were supporting all of the activities of Lord Chaitanya's movement. They were not ordinary people. They were giving millions of rupees for the propagation of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. And they were deeply involved. They were helping as wealthy people. They were helping in the Lord's service by their wealth, through their wealth. Yet Raghunātha Das Goswami, as we will see why, he was still not satisfied simply by the activities of his parents, and he wanted to leave home. So imagine how heartbreaking it was for them, because they had this special son and they could not keep him at home. Caitanya Chandrera Kripa Hayachi Inhare Caitanya Chandrera Batu Lake Rakhite Pare. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu has fully bestowed his mercy on him. Who can keep home such a madman of Caitanya Chandra? So Lord Chaitanya's mercy was fully upon Raghunātha Das Goswami. So he's saying, now it is impossible. So finally, Raghunātha Das Goswami, day and night, he was meditating on how to reach Lord Chaitanya. But finally, he could not find any way. So one time, Nityananda Prabhu was coming to Panihati, a village by the name of Panihati. And there, Nityananda Prabhu was visiting with all of his associates. So Raghunātha Das Goswami, he thought, this is my opportunity. I will go and meet Nityananda Prabhu. So he goes to his parents and he begs them. He says, Nityananda Prabhu is coming. I will go there. And nothing will stop me. You must allow me to go. I will go and meet him. I will go and meet him. And so his parents, finally, they agree. And they send, of course, the 10 men with him so that Raghunātha Das Goswami, while he's there, cannot escape. But they agree to let him go and meet Nityananda Prabhu. And so when Raghunātha Das Goswami goes there, he sees Nityananda Prabhu from a distance. And so he offers his respects from a distance. And the associates, they tell Nityananda Prabhu that Raghunātha Das Goswami has come. And they say, here's Raghunath. And Nityananda Prabhu tells him, you are a thief. Come here immediately. I shall punish you. And so Raghunātha Das Goswami comes forward, and Nityananda Prabhu gives him this following instruction. You are just like a thief, for instead of coming near, you stay away at a distant place. Now that I have captured you, I shall punish you. Make a festival and feed all my associates yogurt and chipped rice. Hearing this, Raghunātha Das was greatly pleased. Raghunātha Das immediately sent his own men to the village to purchase all kinds of eatables and bring them back. So at this point, Srila Prabhupada says how those who are in the family life, those who are householders, they should gain great pleasure. They should feel great pleasure when they have the opportunity to serve those who are engaged in propagating the Krishna consciousness movement. Those who are in the renounced order of life, particularly. Those who are in family life, they should use their wealth, they should use their assets, they should use everything they have in the service of the Lord. And Lord Nityananda Prabhu's example here is showing this, that he is telling Raghunātha Das Goswami that you must arrange this. And he is saying that you are a thief. Why is it? Because Raghunātha Das Goswami was a very wealthy person. And anyone who has wealth in this world is a thief. Why? Because that wealth belongs to Krishna. It doesn't belong to us. And so therefore, if it's in our possession, then we are a thief. So the only way we can be not a thief is if we use that money which belongs to the Lord in the Lord's service. And when Raghunātha Das Goswami heard this instruction, he was therefore greatly pleased because he had the opportunity to use that resource that he had in the Lord's service. So he arranges this very grand feast, very grand festival with all types of sweet rice, flat rice with yogurt, flat rice with milk. And there he feeds the millions of associates of Lord Nityananda, this grand feast. And there's no end to the prasad that is distributed there. All the people have assembled there. And it is such an ecstatic, glorious festival that even Lord Caitanya mystically appears there. And although only the very fortunate could see him, most of the people could not see him, Lord Nityananda and all the intimate associates of the Lord, they're able to see Lord Chaitanya's presence. Lord Caitanya was so pleased by Raghunātha Das Goswami's devotional service that he himself comes to the spot. And so many pastimes take place at that time. And in a joking way, Nityananda Prabhu and Lord Chaitanya begin feeding one another. From every pot, they take a morsel of rice and they, Lord Nityananda puts it in Lord Chaitanya's mouth, and Lord Chaitanya puts it in Nityananda's mouth. And in this way, they begin to laugh and in ecstatic love begin to dance. So finally, the festival has come to a conclusion, and Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu, they begin to dance in ecstasy. And for many hours, they sing and dance and glorify the name of the Lord. In the evening, Lord Chaitanya takes prasad at the home of Raghava Pandit. And at that time again, Raghunātha Das Goswami, he receives the remnants of Lord Chaitanya. So it is very telling that why Raghunātha Das Goswami first meets Lord Nityananda Prabhu. He performs service to Lord Nityananda Prabhu before he is able to attain the association of Lord Chaitanya. Why is this? Because Lord Nityananda, he represents the spiritual master. Through this pastime also, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Lord Chaitanya, they're showing us that before we can attain the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, we must get the mercy of Lord Nityananda. We must get the mercy of the spiritual master, the Guru. Unless we get the mercy of the devotees, we cannot get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Raghunātha Das went there and worshipped Lord Nityananda's lotus feet. Through Raghava Pandit, he submitted his desire. I am the lowest of men, the most sinful, fallen, and condemned. Nevertheless, I desire to attain shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu. So through Raghava Pandit, even Nityananda Prabhu, he did not approach him directly. Through Raghava Pandit, Raghunātha Das Goswami expresses his desire to Lord Nityananda Prabhu after the end of the day. Remember, Lord Chaitanya here right now is just in his mystical form. He's not there present. He's present, but in his mystical form. So he is relating with Lord Nityananda at this point. Raghunātha Das Goswami says, every time I tried to go away and give up my home relationships, my father and mother unfortunately kept me bound. Vamanahaya yena chanda dhari bhare chaya aneka yatna khainu tate khabu siddhanaya. Like a dwarf who wants to catch the moon, I have tried my best many times, but I have never been successful. Raghunātha Goswāmī is saying, I have never been successful. It is impossible for me to get Lord Chaitanya's mercy. No one can attain the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu without your mercy, O Lord Nityananda. But if you are merciful, even the lowest of men can attain shelter at his lotus feet. Although I'm unfit and greatly afraid to submit this plea, I nevertheless request you, sir, to be especially merciful toward me by granting me shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Placing your feet on my head, give me the benediction that I may achieve the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu without difficulty. I pray for this benediction. After hearing this appeal by Raghunātha Das, Lord Nityananda Prabhu smiled and told all the devotees, Raghunātha Das's standard of material happiness is equal to that of Indra, the king of heaven. Because of the mercy bestowed upon him by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Raghunātha Das, although situated in such material happiness, does not like it at all. Therefore, let every one of you be merciful toward him and give him the benediction that he may very soon attain the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One who experiences the fragrance of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna does not value even the standard of happiness available in Brahmaloka, the topmost planet, and what to speak of heavenly happiness. And Nityananda Prabhu gives the example of Bharat Maharaj. While in the prime of life, the great Maharaj Bharat gave up everything because he was fond of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Uttama Shloka. He gave up his beautiful wife, nice children, great friends, and an enormous empire, although these things were very difficult to give up. Maharaj Bharat was so exalted that he gave them up just as one gives up stool after evacuating. Such was the greatness of his majesty. So here these verses are telling us Nityananda Prabhu himself is admiring Raghunātha Das Goswami's renunciation, that he has such great wealth, yet he is giving it up. In the same way as Bharat Maharaj gave up his empire at the prime of his youth simply to attain the Lord. And when there's renunciation within the heart, when someone has experienced the higher taste of love of God, then that person gives up material happiness, even a great kingdom, in the same way one gives up stool after evacuating. As I mentioned, renunciation is the result of purification. It's not hard for them. Just like after passing stool, it's not hard for us to pull the flush, right? No one thinks, should I do this? Should I not? Should I keep it? Should I not? No, it's natural. You just give it up. It's the most despicable. Why wouldn't you give it up? In the same way, spiritual happiness is so great that material happiness, it's like an obvious choice. It's easy to give up. The devotee naturally gives it up. The Lord Nityananda Prabhu called Raghunātha Das near him, placed his lotus feet upon Raghunātha Das's head, and began to speak. So now he places his feet on his head and he says, My dear Raghunātha Das, since you arranged the feast on the bank of the Ganges, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came here just to show his mercy. It's a very key point. He's saying, you performed this devotional service. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya became very happy with you. So this is the result of service to the Vaishnavas. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gaura Hari, came here personally to deliver you. Now rest assured that all the impediments meant for your bondage are gone. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will accept you and place you under the charge of his secretary, Sarup Damodar. You will thus become one of the most confidential internal servants and will attain shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Being assured of all this, return to your home. Very soon, without impediments, you will attain shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Nityananda had Raghunath Das blessed by all the devotees, and Raghunath Das offered his respects to their lotus feet. So I'd like to end with this slide and just highlight this point, the power of blessings. That we should not think that the blessings of the devotees is something ordinary. In this world, we cannot gain anything without the blessings of devotees. And in the same way, if we want to gain the Lord, if we want to gain the mercy of the Lord, we need the blessings of all the devotees. We have to get the blessings of the devotees. We notice that Lord, after this, as we know, Raghunath Das Goswami does escape successfully, and he gets Lord Chaitanya's direct mercy and direct association. But before getting that association, he gets the mercy of Lord Nityananda, who is the spiritual master. He was not able to reach the Lord until he first served Lord Nityananda and fulfilled his instruction. He served him by fulfilling his instruction. And then Lord Nityananda had all the devotees bless him. So then he receives the mercy of all the devotees. And this is just like, when we take shelter of the spiritual master, then the other devotees, the spiritual master, by his mercy, the other devotees, they also begin to bless us. So Prabhupada actually says we should not just think that we need the mercy of the guru and if we just serve the guru, it's all good. But actually, the mercy of the guru does come through the devotees. We also have to serve the devotees because they are part and parcel. They are representatives or parts of the spiritual master. And his mercy actually comes through the devotees. We cannot get the complete mercy of the guru, of the spiritual master, without the mercy of the other devotees as well. And so once he gets all the blessings, then he's able to attain the service and association of Lord Chaitanya. This is why, for example, on birthdays, when devotees have birthdays, they should go and beg for the blessings of all the devotees. They should arrange for a feast for the devotees. Why is this? Because it is those blessings that take us to Krishna. It is by the power of these blessings that every devotee of Lord Chaitanya becomes empowered. When they're empowered to do something, when they get certain blessings, and then they're able to fulfill it. Like Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami himself, he does not write Chaitanya Charitamrita until he receives the instruction, until he receives the order from the devotees and from Madan Mohan. And when he receives the blessings, then he gets the empowerment. And once he has the empowerment, then he's able to fulfill that instruction. And just actually one more, I'm sorry I lied to you. And Raghunath Das Goswami, he is personifying determination, the determination to seek the Lord and the willing to renounce everything in this world to get the Lord. He is, the personification of renunciation. All the Goswamis, they personify something. But he is renunciation, that he renounces his wealthy, comfortable family life. He renounces eating, renounces sleeping, everything, because he's so determined to get the mercy of the Lord. Not caring about eating, he traveled all day. Hunger was not an impediment for his mind was concentrated upon obtaining the shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Sometimes he chewed fried grains, sometimes he cooked, and sometimes he drank milk. In this way, he kept his life and soul together with whatever was available wherever he went. So after Raghunath Das Goswami goes back home, he escapes one day. And this is the story. This is what he does on the journey. And it takes him 12 days to reach Jagannath Puri, where Lord Chaitanya is. But he gets food only 3 days during that time. And even that is just fruits and roots and fried grains. So Raghunath Das Goswami, he personified this determination and this renunciation through his example. So I will stop here and see if there's any comments, questions. We can open it up for discussion. There's so much more that we can talk about. I actually have about 20 more slides, but I think this is a good point to stop.
Dear devotees, whoever wants to ask a question, please unmute yourself and ask a question. Or if you have any reflections, you can also share that.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for a nice class on Raghunātha Gosvāmī. So, Prabhuji, I mean, how we can more meditate on the teachings of Raghunātha Gosvāmī? I mean, maybe one time we heard, and yeah, for the time being, it will remain with us. But how we can have those qualities in us?
Yes. There's so many ways. Bhakti is so, you could say, so full, and so there's so many activities in devotional service that can help us imbibe this mood. But I personally find that by reading and hearing and repeating their pastimes, by reading about Raghunātha Gosvāmī in Antya Lila chapter 6, for example, we get the inspiration to follow his example. Because Raghunātha Gosvāmī, I mean, we only did half of his story, but he shows his example shows how ordinary and worthless material enjoyment and material aspirations are. That's what comes through in his lila, in his pastime. Raghunātha Gosvāmī, even giving up his very opulent family life is not enough. Once he reaches Lord Caitanya, then he gives up, even eating palatable foodstuffs. He stands by the Singhadwara gate and he begs for food there initially. And then after that, he feels this is too much. This is too much enjoyment. I'm getting this nice Mahaprasad from Lord Jagannath. And so then he stops doing that. And then he will just go to the charity booths and take prasad from the charity booths. And then he thinks this is also too opulent. So then he takes the you could say the rotten rice that is thrown out from the Jagannath shops. Once the food gets old, the food that doesn't sell, they will throw it out. And from the street, he just picks that up and he eats it. So his example shows us that the things in this world that we aspire for, all the material luxuries and happiness and cars and houses and all the fancy things that in this world people die for a devotee of the Lord, those things are so ordinary. And also there must be something so high, there must be such a higher taste in spiritual life, something so valuable that Raghunātha Gosvāmī was able to give those things up. Similarly, if we also get that higher taste, we also will be able to give those things up. So like Krishna says in the Gita that by experiencing a higher taste, we can give up the lower taste. So by reading the pastimes of these great personalities, like Raghunātha Gosvāmī, again and again, we become inspired to follow their example. We feel deep inspiration, very deep inspiration that, well, I cannot do what Raghunātha Gosvāmī did, but at least I can be happy with less material possessions. I can be happy in whatever situation Krishna has given me. And it reminds us that our main business, which is what Raghunātha Gosvāmī did, is to engage in this process of bhakti. Every day, Raghunātha Gosvāmī would chant 100,000 names of the Lord, which is 64 rounds. He would chant 64 rounds. He would offer 1,000 obeisances to the Lord every day. And he would offer 2,000 obeisances to the devotees. This was how much he valued the devotees of the Lord. How his life and soul were the devotees of the Lord. He was a manjari in the spiritual world, but he would offer 2,000 obeisances to the devotees every day. And he would worship his Govardhan Shila that was personally given to him by Lord Caitanya he would worship that Govardhan Shila. This was his sadhana every day. And of course, every day for 3 hours, he would discourse. After Lord Chaitanya left this world, he would tell the devotees about Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. So, fully satisfied in this. And so, this is the mood of a devotee, and we can only hope, aspire, and pray to try to follow in his footsteps.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. It seems like paying obeisances to devotees more than we should pay to the Lord. Yeah,
Yes.
because he used to pay more obeisances to the devotees rather Krishna himself. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I have a question.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam Prabhu.
Dhanavat Pranam Prabhu. Prabhu, so you mentioned that in order to give up the lower taste, one needs to take up the higher taste, right? And I mean, in the examples which you gave, it was very apparent that obviously Raghunātha Gosvāmī, as well as, well, pretty much all our advanced Vaishnavas, were experiencing that higher taste, and therefore they could easily give up that lower taste, to your point.
Yes.
So how do we experience that higher taste? What do we have to do? We can't, I mean, I don't know, we can't buy higher taste for love or money. So how do we get that?
Yes. Yes, Prabhu, thank you very much for this nice question, this nice point. So when Lord Chaitanya, when he meets the Kurma Brahmana, who is more, you could say, similar to our situation, like Raghunātha Goswāmī, he's Rati Manjari, he's already has this very, very ecstatic love for Krishna within his heart. When he meets the Kurma Brahmana, then the Kurma Brahmana becomes a pure devotee of the Lord, as everyone did when they met Lord Chaitanya. And so he begins to roll in ecstatic love, and he tells Lord Chaitanya that now I want to leave my family and I just want to come with you. And Lord Chaitanya tells me, he says, never speak like that again. He says, go home. And he says, just do two things. Always take the holy name of the Lord and always share this name with others. So he says, take the holy name of the Lord, serve the Vaishnavas, and share this holy name with others, and you will gain all perfection. So from this, we can understand that the higher taste that makes us qualified to renounce the world, like Raghunātha Goswāmī did, that higher taste comes through the practices of bhakti, which are given to us through Nityananda Prabhu, through the spiritual master, and through the holy name. Because first and foremost, he says, chant the holy name. So that higher taste comes through these very potent activities of bhakti. And once we gain that higher taste, then we are able to give up the lower taste and renounce the world. And apparently, even in Raghunātha Goswāmī's pastimes, initially, as a Leela, Lord Chaitanya doesn't feel he's ready, because he meets Lord Chaitanya in Shantipur as a young man. And at that moment, he wants to join the Lord, but he says, no, go back home and be like a person who has a paramour and always think of the Lord. So in some ways, also our material experience of family life and the frustrations that come with it also help us develop the determination to surrender our life to Krishna. Because, it's a fact, we are able to renounce family life when we are convinced that it is not pleasure that we are seeking, deeply convinced, not just superficially. So yes, so the experience of family life, along with the practice of devotional service, the very intense practice of bhakti, gives us that higher taste in these pastimes.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you. Any other final thoughts, questions, comments? I think I was supposed to end at 6 o'clock, Prabhu. We're already over, so.
Okay. So should we pause here, Prabhu, for today?
If this is the time, yes, then we can stop, Prabhu. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, dear Prabhu. It was the ecstatic class, Prabhu. Very wonderful. We learned a lot from this Raghunātha Goswami's his pastimes, his stories, how he led his life, and especially the way how you have presented it. It's wonderful. It's a good way to prepare our consciousness for Gaur Purnima. That's a week ahead from now. Thank you, Prabhu, for giving us this wonderful class. And we really admire and appreciate your association, and hope and pray that we continue to get your association at ISKCON Boston online in future as well. I take this opportunity on behalf of entire ISKCON and appreciate your dear devotees. Thank you, Gopal.